AITA for saying I'm bilingual when I know ASL. Plus 2.5-year update. For context, some of my family members are deaf, HOH. Because of that, everyone in my family knows ASL. It was actually my first language because my dad is deaf. Most people don't know I know ASL because there usually isn't a reason for me to sign. I, 16F, was with my friends, and a new girl that my other friends know, 18F. She was saying how she was sorry if sometimes she has trouble speaking because English isn't her first language. I told her it was fine and it wasn't mine either. And we moved on. Later that day, we were at the skate park and our ethnicities came up. She was bragging about knowing Spanish because her mom was from Mexico. And she turned to me and asked what other language I spoke. I told her ASL. She didn't like that. She went on a whole rant about how it wasn't a real language because it didn't have culture. She kept saying it was glorified Morse code because all you need to do is know the alphabet. I tired telling her that wasn't true and it has grammar very different than normal English. Eventually I just said we should drop it but she wouldn't. She is currently spamming the group chat with articles about how easy it is to learn or social media posts about how ASL isn't a language. And even scientific papers about that gorilla that knew sign language. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Our friend group is divided because on one hand ASL might be easier to learn than most languages but some think it's not even a real language. AITA. Update 2. Background. Some members of my family are deaf, HOH, runs in the family, so we all know ASL in my family. ASL was my first language. I had to go to speech therapy because I almost never spoke out loud at home. Even now when I get overwhelmed I sometimes end up signing by accident. Also in my city, pretty much everyone goes to the 2 huge state schools in the area. Me and the ableist ended up going to the same college. So about 2 years ago-ish I, 16F then, 18F now, had an altercation with a girl, 18F then, 20F now, my friends were hanging out with. She claimed ASL was not a real language. And that she knew Spanish, that it was filled with rich culture, which it is. But that doesn't mean you get to just say that ASL isn't a real language with real culture. She said it was a superpower I didn't possess. It ended up dividing our friend group over whether or not I could say I was bilingual. I was a shy and meek person then, so I didn't really stand up for myself. I went to the Am I the Asshole subreddit to see if I was going crazy. Many people responded to my post telling me that I wasn't overreacting or in the wrong. I knew deaf culture is so rich and diverse, but all these strangers encouraging and validating me helped me to fully process what was happening. Deaf slams, the nursery rhymes I grew up on, etc., that all seem foreign and maybe strange to hearing people, are all things I feel at home with. When I tried explaining things to the girl, she didn't want to hear it. Even some of the people I called friends were saying I was in the wrong. ASL is a joke of a class to them. This made me so mad. The amount of times I had seen my family experience ableism growing up, having to fight for my family at such a young age, just for my friends to turn on me like that. I told this girl, if ASL is so easy, why don't you learn it? She said it wasn't worth her time. She told me I should learn a real language. I was fuming, but I realized she had kinda just admitted ASL was difficult to learn. She was nervous. I was 90% sure she knew she couldn't just breeze by learning ASL. I decided then and there I would learn Spanish to prove that my first language was real and important. I went to the library, checked out books on Spanish. I signed up for the paid language learning program my library offered for free. I took dual enrollment Spanish classes at a local college. When I later got into college, I tested into Spanish level 3 and continued studying. I got a job, unrelated to my revenge quest, where it turned out a lot of my coworkers spoke it. So this gave me an opportunity to learn the nuances, slang, etc. This helped me not sound like an excerpt from the textbook. I put my phone in Spanish. I texted with people who could only Spanish online. After about a year of constant immersion, my coworkers told me I was sounding pretty good. I had already had to learn English when I first went to school. I think that made it a lot easier. I found it to be a really beautiful language. I decided I needed to step up my game even more than I already was. I watched movies and read books almost exclusively in Spanish. I went to the Hispanic area of my city constantly. I made friends there. I told them up front my plan. I was a little worried they would react the same way to ASL that the other girl did, but they didn't at all. They were super supportive and affirmed that sign languages are real languages. Having these new friends allowed me to shift away from this old friend group. I still skated with the old group from time to time, but it was nothing like how I was with the group before. My new friends understood what it was like to deal with prejudice from the world when their family didn't understand/hear English. They knew what it was like to feel like a foreigner in two cultures. They understood how it was to be a translator by the time you were in elementary school. I could relate so well to them. By the time I had been learning the language for almost 2 years, I had just about forgotten why I set out to learn Spanish. Then, I got a text from the group chat the ableist girl was in. They wanted to film some skate clips for another guy's Instagram. It was going to be him, another kid, the ableist girl, and me. I knew this was the perfect time to get my revenge. When I arrived at the hangout, everyone but the girl was there. Me and the other people were talking when she came up to us. After some filming, we sat down for a water break. We started talking about school, just random stuff. Then she brought up how teachers didn't understand her since her brain worked differently because she was bilingual. Another person said she was just bilingual, not on the spectrum or anything. While I don't agree with that, it felt kinda weird to mention autistic people randomly. It was the perfect in for me. She went on a very opinionated rant, saying how none of us could possibly understand what it is like for her. Mind you, her native language is English, so it wasn't like she was having problems with that in school. I told her I spoke multiple languages. She said, "What? That talking with your BS doesn't count. Is this a sign?" She jumbled her hands, the equivalent of speaking gibberish and asking if that was a word in English. She was hysterically laughing, like this wasn't something I had heard since I started going to school. I replied in Spanish, using the very colorful curse words I learned from working fast food with a bunch of disgruntled people. She said I just learned those words, that I didn't actually know Spanish. We then proceeded to have a heated discussion, all in Spanish. She was yelling at me by the end. The other two people were now very confused. I explained to them I learned Spanish out of spite, to prove ASL was a real language. I said that Spanish was an easy language. I was lying, it is pretty difficult, and asked her why she hadn't learned the glorified Morse code I spoke. She then replied with the most satisfying thing I have ever heard. "But you already knew another language, so of course it was easier for you." She tried to backtrack after I caught that, but it was too late. She was already throwing a temper tantrum. I told her that ASL and deaf culture were as real as Spanish. After that massive blow-up we all just went home. The next few days I was spammed with more reasons why ASL wasn't real, but also it was easy for me to learn Spanish because I was bilingual. I ignored them all and blocked her. She started DMing me, where I blocked her too. She then started emailing via the school messaging system, where you can't block people. I was not really affected by her insults to me, but then she started talking about my family. She called them defective, the R word, and incapacitated. She mentioned my little brother, who is HOH and 11 years old. That was the last straw. I went to the dean and had receipts for everything. Her full legal name was attached to it all, and they were able to look up the messages in the system. They said immediate action would be taken, that this was unacceptable. She lost her scholarship and was put on academic probation. She started ranting about this on her public Instagram, saying more ableist crap. Which the school obviously saw. And they fully expelled her, offered me a time to talk to the counselor, a scholarship for CODA, child of deaf adult. I didn't accept the counseling or the scholarship, but I really did appreciate the sentiments. When the first semester ended, I applied for a paid internship, where I got to put I knew ASL and Spanish. I get paid about 10% more than my colleagues in the same position who speak one language. My friends I made on this revenge journey are the best, I have so much love for them. We have only grown closer following all this drama. TLDR, a girl said ASL wasn't a language, but Spanish was because she spoke it. I, a child of a deaf parent, learned Spanish for 2 years, made super close Spanish-speaking friends. And when I spoke Spanish to her, she threw a tantrum that got her kicked out of the school she had almost gotten her AA from. What do you think? Tell us in the comments. Like the video and hit the subscribe button for more Reddit stories.